The battle alarms blared throughout the UES Retribution as Captain James Walker gripped the arms of his command chair. Red emergency lights pulsed across the bridge, illuminating the faces of his crew. Their expressions showed a mix of fear and determination as enemy fire rocked the massive warship. "Shields down to 30%, shouted Officer Lisa Green from her station. Her fingers danced across the control panel, trying to reroute power from non-essential systems. "The Dominion cruisers are moving to surround us, sir," reported Mark Taylor, the tactical officer. His voice remained steady, but sweat beaded on his forehead. 3 more ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Walker nodded grimly. The Retribution, pride of the Earth fleet, was among humanity's most advanced warships. Even so, it was outmatched against this many Dominion vessels. The alien ships looked like giant dark metal insects against the backdrop of stars, their hulls covered with strange protrusions that glowed with purple energy. "Engineering, I need more power to the main guns," Walker ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Taylor, focus fire on the lead cruiser. We need to punch a hole in their formation." The ship trembled as another blast struck its hull. A console at the rear of the bridge exploded in a shower of sparks, sending a crew member tumbling to the floor. 2 others rushed to drag the injured sailor to safety. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the lead Dominion vessel," said Emma Ross, the ship's science officer. Her eyes widened as she studied her screens. "It's like nothing I've seen before. They're charging some kind of weapon." Walker stood up, moving to look over Ross's shoulder at the readings. He'd been fighting the Dominion for 8 years, and in that time, human intelligence had built fairly accurate profiles of their weapon systems. This was something new. "All power to forward shields," he ordered. "Prepare tow." His words were cut short as a blinding purple beam lanced out from the alien flagship, striking the Retribution dead center. The lights flickered and died. For 3 terrifying seconds, everything went silent. Then the emergency systems kicked in, bringing dim lighting back to the bridge. "Damage report," Walker called out. "Sir, that wasn't a normal weapon," Ross said, her voice shaking slightly. "Our sensors indicate some kind of spatial distortion forming around the ship. We're being pulled toward it." Outside the forward view screen, Walker could see it. A swirling vortex of darkness speckled with points of light, like a miniature galaxy forming right in front of them. The stars around them seemed to stretch and distort. "Full reverse thrust," he ordered. "Get us out of here." Engineer John Miller's voice came over the comms, strained and breaking up. "Engines at maximum, Captain, but we're barely holding position. Whatever that thing is, it's got us in some kind of gravitational lock." Walker turned to his communications officer. "Send an emergency broadcast to Fleet Command. Include all sensor data on this anomaly." "Transmitting now, sir," replied Officer Robert Bell. His face fell as he checked his readouts. "No confirmation of receipt. The distortion field may be blocking our signals." The pull grew stronger. The Retribution groaned as metal strained against forces it was never designed to withstand. Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge. "Sir," said Taylor quietly, "the Dominion ships are retreating. They're moving away at maximum speed." That was when Walker knew they were truly in danger. If the Dominion, who had shown nothing but hatred for humans since first contact, were running from their own weapon, then whatever was happening was beyond even their control. "All hands, brace for impact," Walker announced shipwide. "This is not a drill. I repeat, all hands brace for impact." The vortex grew larger, consuming the view from every window. Strange lights danced within its depths, and for a brief moment, several crew members swore they could see shapes moving within. Massive shadows that defied description. "Captain," Ross whispered, "the readings are off the charts. This isn't just spatial distortion. It's like we're being pulled into another dimension entirely." Walker returned to his command chair, sitting down firmly as the ship lurched forward. "Everyone hold tight. Whatever happens, We face it together. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Reed, the ship's executive officer and Walker's closest friend, moved to stand beside the captain's chair. Orders, sir. Walker looked up at Reed, a grim smile on his face. If we make it through this, make sure everyone knows we didn't go down without a fight. If we don't. Reed nodded, understanding the unspoken command. If they somehow survived, their first priority would be finding a way home. The Retribution shuddered one last time before being fully engulfed by the swirling vortex. The view screen showed nothing but turbulent energy patterns surrounding them, like being caught inside a storm made of light and darkness. Several crew members closed their eyes, certain these were their final moments. And then, in an instant, everything went quiet. The turbulence stopped. The view screen showed only stars, but not in any configuration they recognized. Where are we? Walker asked, breaking the stunned silence. Ross worked frantically at her station. Unknown, sir. None of these star patterns match our charts. And she hesitated, checking her readings again. There's something else. The spectral analysis of the stars is different, subtly shifted. It's as if. As if what, Officer Ross? Walker prompted. As if we're not in our universe anymore, sir. 3 days later, in Earth Fleet Headquarters on Luna Base, Admiral William Grant stared at the holographic display showing the last known position of the UES Retribution. The ship's signal had disappeared completely during what was supposed to be a routine patrol along the border sectors. Play it again, he ordered. His aide, Major Helen Black, nodded and restarted the recording. The grainy footage showed the Retribution engaged with several Dominion ships. There was a flash of purple light. And then, nothing. Just empty space where a warship carrying 347 crew members had been moments before. No debris field, Grant muttered. No radiation signature, nothing to indicate the ship was destroyed. The Dominion are claiming they had nothing to do with it, Black said. According to their official statement, they were testing a new propulsion system that malfunctioned. Grant snorted. And we're supposed to believe that. Intelligence doesn't think they're lying, sir. Our spies report they seem genuinely concerned about whatever happened. They've pulled back from that entire sector. The Admiral rubbed his forehead, feeling the weight of having to inform 347 families that their loved ones were missing in action. Sir, Black continued hesitantly, Lieutenant Commander Reed has requested a transfer to the investigation team. Grant raised an eyebrow. Reed? He wasn't on the Retribution. No, sir. He was scheduled to ship out next week after completing his advanced tactical training. He and Captain Walker were academy roommates. The Admiral considered this. Approved the transfer. We need our best people on this. As Black left to process the paperwork, Grant turned back to the hologram. Something about this didn't add up. The Dominion were ruthless, but they weren't known for developing weapons that made ships simply vanish, and their retreat from the sector suggested even they were afraid of what they'd encountered. Where are you, Retribution? He whispered to the empty air. And what the hell happened out there? Thomas Reed stood in his small apartment, staring at a framed photo of himself and James Walker from their academy days. They were both smiling, arms around each other's shoulders, the earth shining blue and beautiful in the sky above the lunar campus behind them. I don't believe you're dead, Jim, he said to the photo. And I'm going to find out what happened to you and your crew. Whatever it takes. His datapad pinged with a notification. His transfer had been approved. In 3 days, he would join the team investigating the Retribution's disappearance. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Outside his window, stars filled the night sky. Somewhere out there, Reed believed, the Retribution was still intact. And someday, somehow, it would return home. He didn't yet know how right he was, or how much he would come to regret that wish. 50 years passed. The war with the Dominion settled into an uneasy stalemate. Both sides, exhausted by decades of fighting, maintained heavily fortified borders, but rarely engaged in direct combat anymore. Admiral Thomas Reed, now in his 70s with silver hair and deep lines etched into his face, sat in his office on Earth's orbital defense station. Despite his age, his eyes remained sharp and alert as he reviewed the daily security reports. After 45 years of searching, he had never given up hope of finding the Retribution and his friend James Walker. The urgent chime from his computer interrupted his thoughts. "Admiral Reed, sir," came the voice of his aide, Lieutenant David Brown. "We're detecting an unknown ship approaching Earth's defensive perimeter. It just appeared on our scanners." Reed frowned. "Dominion?" "No, sir. It doesn't match any known configuration, and it's massive. At least 3 times the size of our largest battleship." "Alert status," Reed ordered, rising quickly from his chair. "I'll be at command in 2 minutes." As Reed hurried through the station corridors, emergency lights began to flash. The station's AI announced in a calm voice, "All personnel to battle stations. Unknown vessel approaching." This is not a drill. The command center was a flurry of activity when Reed arrived. Officers rushed between stations, and the main view screen showed a distant object moving toward Earth. The ship was unlike anything Reed had ever seen, elongated and dark, with strange geometric patterns glowing along its hull. "What's its approach vector?" Reed asked as he took his position. "That's the strange part, sir," replied Commander Anna Wilson, the station's tactical officer. "It's not trying to avoid our defense grid. It's heading straight for us, but making no aggressive moves." "Have we tried hailing it?" "Yes, sir. No response so far." Reed studied the view screen. Something about the ship's central section seemed vaguely familiar, though it was mostly obscured by layers of unfamiliar technology. "Magnify the center portion of that vessel," he ordered. The screen zoomed in, focusing on what appeared to be the core of the strange ship. Reed's heart nearly stopped. Though partly hidden beneath alien additions, he could make out the unmistakable lines of a human-built warship, and not just any warship. That's the Retribution," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Sir." Wilson looked at him in confusion. Before Reed could explain, Lieutenant Brown called out, "Admiral, we're being hailed. The signal is coming from the unknown vessel, but..." He paused, checking his readings. "It's using an old Earth Fleet emergency frequency, one that hasn't been in use for decades." "Put it through," Reed ordered, his mouth suddenly dry. The view screen flickered, and a face appeared that made several officers gasp. It was an older man with a neatly trimmed white beard. His uniform was recognizable as Earth Fleet, but modified with unfamiliar elements. Most striking were his eyes, cold and hard, as if they had witnessed things beyond human understanding. "This is Captain James Walker of the UES Retribution, requesting permission to approach Earth," the man said, his voice gravelly but strong. Reed stepped forward, hardly able to believe what he was seeing. "Jim, is that really you?" Walker's expression softened slightly, the first hint of humanity breaking through his stern demeanor. "Tom, you got old, my friend." "So did you," Reed replied automatically, though in truth, Walker looked younger than he should have after 50 years. "Where have you been? What happened to your ship?" "It's a long story," Walker said, "one I'd prefer to tell in person. But first, I need your help convincing your defense forces not to shoot us down. My ship has changed, and I understand how threatening it must appear." Reed turned to Commander Wilson. "Stand down to alert level 2. Inform Earth Defense Command that I'm vouching personally for this vessel." "Sir," Wilson objected, "regulations require." "I know the regulations, Commander," Reed cut her off. "I wrote half of them. This is my call. That ship out there is the Retribution. It disappeared 50 years ago, and now it's returned. I need to know why." Wilson nodded reluctantly and began issuing the necessary orders. Reed turned back to the screen. "Jim, I'm sending coordinates for a holding position near the station. We'll dispatch a shuttle to bring you aboard." "No need," Walker replied. We have our own transportation methods now. Prepare for our arrival in 10 minutes. The transmission ended abruptly. Sir, Brown said nervously, that ship is still over 100,000 kilometers away. No shuttle could cover that distance in 10 minutes. Reed simply nodded. Whatever happened to them out there changed them. Be prepared for anything. Exactly 10 minutes later, the command center's main doors slid open. Captain James Walker walked in, flanked by two officers Reed didn't recognize. They wore modified Earth Fleet uniforms with strange symbols embroidered on their sleeves. The entire room fell silent as Walker approached Reed. Up close, the changes in his old friend were even more apparent. Walker moved with unnatural precision, and faint lines of light occasionally pulsed beneath his skin. "Tom," Walker said, extending his hand. "It's good to see you." Reed hesitated only briefly before shaking it. The hand felt human enough, but slightly too cool. 50 years, Jim. We thought you were dead." "For us, it's been only 3 years," Walker replied. "Time works differently where we were taken." "And where was that exactly?" Walker glanced around the command center, his gaze lingering on the various officers watching them. "Somewhere humans were never meant to go. A place between dimensions, where the normal laws of physics don't apply." He stepped closer to Reed, lowering his voice. "We encountered things there, Tom. Ancient things, terrible and wonderful. They changed us, changed the ship. Are you even still human?" Reed asked quietly. Walker smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mostly. But we've learned things, seen things. The Dominion is nothing compared to what's out there." "Is that why you've returned? To warn us?" "Partly." Walker nodded. "But also because Earth is in danger. There's something coming, Tom. Something that makes the war with the Dominion look like a children's game." Reed studied his friend's face, searching for any trace of the man he once knew. There was familiarity there, but also something alien, a coldness that hadn't been there before. "What happened to you out there, Jim?" he asked softly. Walker's expression darkened. "We were hunted, studied, taken apart, and put back together. And then we learned how to fight back." He placed a hand on Reed's shoulder. "I need you to trust me. Will you help me convince Earth's leaders to listen?" "I'll try," Reed promised, though uncertainty gnawed at him. "But they'll have questions. Many questions." "Of course they will," Walker replied. "But time is short. The harvesters have already found this dimension. And they're coming." "The harvesters." Walker's eyes grew distant, as if seeing something beyond the room. "They consume everything, Tom. Worlds, species, knowledge. And they're very, very hungry." Around them, the command center had gone deathly quiet as everyone strained to hear their conversation. "We should take this somewhere private," Reed suggested. Walker nodded. "Lead the way, old friend. We have much to discuss." As they left the command center, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that while the retribution had indeed returned, the James Walker he had known was still lost somewhere in the depths of space, replaced by something that wore his face but carried the cold rage of a being that had endured horrors beyond human comprehension. And Earth would soon learn just how angry the lost warship truly was. The meeting room in Earth's central government building was filled with the most powerful military and political leaders of humanity. They sat around a large oval table, their faces tense as they waited for Captain Walker to begin. Admiral Reed sat beside his old friend, still unsure what to make of the changed man. Walker stood at the head of the table, his posture unnaturally perfect. Behind him, a holographic display showed the transformed Retribution in orbit. "Thank you for agreeing to hear me," Walker began, his voice echoing in the quiet room. "What I'm about to tell you will be difficult to believe, but everything I say is true." He pressed a small device on his wrist, and the hologram changed to show a swirling vortex of energy. 50 years ago, by your time, the Retribution was pulled into what we now know was a dimensional gateway. The Dominion didn't create it deliberately. They were experimenting with technology they didn't understand, technology they had found, not built. General Peter Davis, the head of Earth's Defense Forces, leaned forward. Found. From where? From the harvesters, Walker replied. Or more accurately, from one of the civilizations the harvesters had already consumed. Walker changed the hologram again. It now showed a massive machine-like structure, part living organism, part technology. It resembled a city-sized spider with countless mechanical appendages. This is a harvester, he explained. They are an ancient machine intelligence that travels between dimensions, seeking out advanced civilizations. They don't just destroy these civilizations, they absorb them. Their knowledge, their technology, their very essence. President Maria Ortiz, a stern woman with gray-streaked hair, shook her head. Captain Walker, these claims are extraordinary. Do you have any proof beyond these images? Walker smiled thinly. The proof is my ship, Madam President. The technology now integrated with the Retribution is beyond anything humans or the Dominion could create. But if you need more convincing. He nodded to one of his officers who had accompanied him. The woman, Lieutenant Jane Porter, stepped forward and placed a small cube on the table. The cube floated into the air, expanded, and projected a three-dimensional record of the Retribution's journey. The leaders watched in stunned silence as they saw the ship being pulled through the dimensional gateway, emerging into a strange realm where physics seemed to work differently. Colors existed that had no names in human language. Structures floated that seemed to bend in impossible ways. For us, only 3 years passed. Walker continued as the recording played. We were found by survivors, refugees from dozens of civilizations that had escaped the harvesters. They had formed a hidden colony in the space between dimensions. The hologram showed alien beings of various forms approaching the damaged Retribution, helping to repair it. They recognized our ship as primitive, but they saw potential in us. Humans adapt quickly, they said. We learn fast. And most importantly, we still had a home to return to, a home they could help us save. Walker paused, his eyes scanning the room. The refugees helped us understand what the harvesters truly are and how they operate. The harvesters never attack a civilization at its peak. They wait until it weakens itself, usually through war. Admiral Reed felt a chill run down his spine. The war with the Dominion. Walker nodded. Exactly, Tom. The harvesters have been manipulating both humans and the Dominion for decades. They planted that technology for the Dominion to find, knowing they would try to use it. They've been pushing both our civilizations toward mutual destruction. General Davis stood up angrily. That's absurd. Are you suggesting our entire conflict with the Dominion is some puppet show for these harvesters? Not entirely, Walker replied calmly. The initial conflicts were genuine. But the harvesters found our dimension about 60 years ago and have been subtly influencing events ever since. They're patient predators. They'll wait centuries if necessary. He changed the hologram again, showing a star map of human and Dominion space. Several points of light pulsed red. These are locations where dimensional disturbances similar to the one that took my ship have been detected over the past 5 years. The harvesters are preparing invasion points. President Ortiz studied the map carefully. If what you say is true, Captain, why would these refugee aliens help you? What do they gain? Revenge, Walker said simply. And hope. The harvesters have destroyed thousands of civilizations across countless dimensions, but they've never been stopped. The refugees believe we might be the first to do it. If humans and the Dominion work together. Laughter erupted from several people around the table. Work with the Dominion, General Davis scoffed. After 50 years of war, that's impossible. Walker's face hardened. Nothing is impossible, General. My crew and I are living proof of that. Speaking of your crew, said Defense Minister Alan Wright, they've all undergone these same changes as you. We were enhanced, Walker corrected. The refugees helped us integrate with technologies that would allow us to survive dimensional travel and combat the harvesters. We're still human, but improved. Improved how? Exactly? Asked Reed, speaking up for the first time. Walker hesitated before answering. Enhanced neural processing, improved cellular regeneration, integration with the ship's systems. We can control the retribution with our thoughts now. It's part of us, and we're part of it. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. And the anger? Reed asked quietly. Walker looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Your ship, Reed explained. When our sensors first detected it, there were energy patterns consistent with weapons being primed. And your eyes, Jim, they're different. Colder. Walker was silent for a moment. We've seen things that would break most humans, Tom. We've fought battles you can't imagine. And yes, we're angry. Angry at what was taken from us. Angry at what the harvesters have done to countless innocent civilizations. He looked around the room, his gaze intense. But our anger is controlled, focused. It drives us to prevent what happened to the refugees from happening to Earth. President Ortiz stood up. Captain Walker, we need time to discuss this and verify what we can of your claims. Walker nodded. I understand, Madam President, but don't take too long. The harvesters are already moving. Their first attacks will target remote outposts, testing our defenses, studying our responses. And what do you propose we do? General Davis asked, his tone still skeptical but less hostile. Contact the Dominion, Walker replied without hesitation. Show them what I've shown you. They're being hunted too, even if they don't realize it yet. They'd never believe us, Minister Wright said. They'd think it was a trap. Walker smiled grimly. Then we'll have to convince them. The retribution has been modified to travel between dimensions. We can take representatives to see the refugee colony, to witness the truth firsthand. Is that safe? Reed asked. No, Walker admitted, but it's necessary. The future of both our species depends on it. As the meeting continued, Reed watched his old friend carefully. He could still see traces of the James Walker he had known. The determination, the strategic mind, the loyalty to humanity. But there was something else there too, something alien and dangerous. The retribution had returned, but it had brought more than warnings and advanced technology. It had brought a cold fury born from witnessing horrors beyond human comprehension. Reed only hoped that fury would be directed at the right targets, because he had seen the recordings of the enhanced retribution in action. And the thought of that ship, that angry ship, turning against Earth was too terrible to contemplate. We'll need proof, President Ortiz was saying. Something concrete to take to the Dominion. Walker nodded. Then let me show you what the harvesters are truly capable of. The retribution intercepted a probe they sent ahead of their main force. We have it contained aboard our ship. Reed felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever Walker had brought back with him, he suspected humanity wasn't ready for it. But ready or not, the war for survival had already begun. 3 days after Captain Walker's shocking presentation to Earth's leaders, the first attack came. A small human mining colony on the edge of the solar system went silent. All communication stopped without warning. The retribution was the first to respond, reaching the colony in minutes using its new dimension-shifting technology. What they found confirmed Walker's worst fears. Admiral Reed stood on the bridge of the Valiant, Earth's newest battleship, watching the recorded footage Walker had sent back. The mining colony was simply gone. Where a thriving outpost with 5,000 people had stood, there was now only a perfectly circular hole in the asteroid's surface. Nothing remained, not even debris. This is exactly how the harvesters begin, Walker's voice explained over the recording. They consume everything, people, buildings, even the raw materials. Nothing is wasted. Reed turned to General Davis, who had insisted on coming aboard the Valiant to see the evidence firsthand. Still think Captain Walker is lying, General. Davis's face was ashen. 5,000 people, just gone. And this is just the beginning, Reed said grimly. Walker warned us they would start with remote outposts. The communication officer interrupted them. Admiral, we're receiving an urgent message from Dominion space. It's on an open frequency. Reed and Davis exchanged surprised looks. The Dominion never used open channels where humans could listen. Put it through, Reed ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a Dominion commander. The alien's gray, ridged face looked strangely vulnerable, its normally hostile yellow eyes wide with what Reed recognized as fear. This message is for all human military forces, the Dominion commander said, its translator converting the clicks and hisses of its native language into English. Our outpost on Krell 7 has been attacked by an unknown force. The entire station has vanished without trace. We have detected similar energy signatures near 3 other Dominion worlds. The alien paused, clearly struggling with its next words. We request information. Have human territories experienced similar attacks? Before Reed could respond, another communication came through. This one from the Retribution. Admiral, Walker said, his face appearing on a split screen beside the Dominion commander. The Harvesters have begun their invasion. They're targeting both human and Dominion outposts simultaneously, just as I predicted. This is our chance. Reed nodded, understanding immediately. Open a direct channel to the Dominion commander, he told his communications officer. Once connected, Reed addressed the alien directly. Dominion commander, I am Admiral Thomas Reed of Earth Fleet. We have also experienced an attack identical to what you described. We believe we know what's responsible. The Dominion commander's eyes narrowed. Explain. It would be better to show you, Reed replied. I propose a meeting. Neutral territory, minimal forces. We have information vital to both our species' survival. There was a long pause as the Dominion commander appeared to consult with others off-screen. Finally, it turned back to face Reed. Agreed. The space station at the Omega Nebula border. 6 hours from now. 1 ship each. The transmission ended abruptly. General Davis looked at Reed with a mixture of shock and respect. I can't believe they agreed. They're scared, Reed said simply. And so should we be. The Omega Nebula space station had been built 20 years ago as a neutral meeting point for rare diplomatic exchanges between humans and the Dominion. Its design reflected the distrust between the species, 2 separate docking areas, a central meeting room with multiple security checkpoints, and automated defenses to prevent either side from attempting a takeover. The Retribution hovered nearby, its massive form dwarfing both the station and the human and Dominion ships docked there. Inside the station's meeting room, Admiral Reed sat across from the Dominion High Commander Grek, with Captain Walker standing at the head of the table. Our scientists have confirmed the energy signature at both attack sites is identical, Walker explained, showing holographic data to the Dominion leader. These are dimensional ruptures, the Harvester's method of feeding. Grek, an older Dominion with battle scars across its faceplates, studied the data carefully. And you claim to have encountered these Harvesters when your ship disappeared 50 years ago. Yes, Walker confirmed. We were pulled into their hunting ground between dimensions. They'd been pursuing civilizations across countless realities for millennia. Why should we believe you? Grek demanded. This could be an elaborate human deception. Walker smiled coldly. Because I can prove it. The technology on my ship isn't human or Dominion in origin. Your scientists can examine it. And more importantly, I know about the artifact your people found 80 years ago, the one that started your experiments with dimensional technology. Grek's yellow eyes widened. How could you possibly know about that? Because the refugees showed us, Walker replied. It was Harvester technology, planted for you to find. They've been manipulating both our civilizations, pushing us into a war that weakens us for their arrival. Reed watched the exchange carefully. The Dominion commander was clearly shaken, but not yet convinced. Even if what you say is true, Grek said finally, what do you propose? Our species have been enemies for half a century. Walker activated another hologram, showing the modified retribution. My ship has been enhanced with technology that can detect and counteract harvester incursions, he explained. We can install similar modifications on both human and Dominion vessels. It won't be enough to defeat them entirely, but it will give us time to develop better defenses. And in return, Greg asked suspiciously. We stopped trying to kill each other, Reed interjected. At least until the harvester threat is eliminated. Greg was silent for a long moment, its alien features unreadable to human eyes. Finally, it spoke. I will need to consult with the Dominion Council, but the evidence is compelling. Walker nodded. The harvesters will strike again within days, targeting larger settlements. They're testing our capabilities, learning our weaknesses. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A human officer rushed into the meeting room. Admiral Reed, we're detecting multiple dimensional ruptures forming near Earth's moon. At the same time, a Dominion aide entered from the opposite door, chittering urgently in their native language. Greg stood up immediately. The Dominion homeworld is under attack. Walker's expression remained calm, almost as if he had expected this. They're accelerating their timeline. They must have detected our meeting and realized we're attempting to form an alliance. He turned to face both Reed and Greg. We don't have time for diplomatic niceties anymore. The retribution can reach both Earth and the Dominion homeworld quickly using dimension shift technology. But we need to decide now. Do we work together, or do we die separately? Reed looked at Greg, seeing the same terrible realization in the alien's eyes that he felt himself. They had no choice. The Valiant will follow your lead, Jim, Reed said. Greg hesitated only briefly before nodding. The Dominion vessel's strength of ages will assist in the defense of Earth, but I must return to my homeworld. I'll take you there, Walker said to Greg. The retribution can travel between points almost instantly now. Admiral Reed, defend Earth. We'll join you as soon as possible. As they rushed to their ships, Reed grabbed Walker's arm. Jim, can we really win this? You've seen what these harvesters can do. For a moment, something of the old James Walker showed in his eyes. Determination, courage, and fierce loyalty. We can fight them, Tom. The refugees have been doing it for centuries. They just lack the resources and unity we can provide. His expression hardened again. And unlike the refugees, we have something else. We have anger. We know what these monsters have taken from us, what they plan to take, and we will not go quietly. As Reed watched the retribution depart with the Dominion commander aboard, he realized the true meaning behind the rumors that had spread through Earth's fleet. The lost warship had returned, and its anger might be the only thing that could save them all. The space around Earth's moon was chaos. Swirling vortexes of dark energy tore open the fabric of reality as the first wave of harvester ships emerged. They resembled massive metal spiders, their hulls black and sleek, with dozens of appendages extending from their central bodies. Purple energy pulsed along their surfaces as they moved toward Earth. Admiral Reed stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the enemy approach. Around his ship, every available human vessel had formed a defensive line. Crews who had spent their entire careers training to fight the Dominion now faced an enemy beyond their understanding. All ships, hold position, Reed ordered, his voice steady despite his fear. Wait for them to come within range. The lead harvester vessel suddenly accelerated, breaking away from the others. It moved with impossible speed, covering the distance to the human fleet in seconds. Fire, Reed commanded. Every human ship unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Energy beams, missiles, and projectiles converged on the harvester ship. For a moment, Reed allowed himself to hope. Then the smoke cleared. The harvester was undamaged. The attacks had simply been absorbed into its hull, the energy disappearing without effect. Our weapons aren't working, his tactical officer reported unnecessarily. Reed watched in horror as the harvester extended one of its appendages toward the nearest human cruiser. There was a flash of purple light, and the cruiser simply vanished, consumed in seconds. Fall back to secondary positions. Reed ordered. All ships, evasive maneuvers. As the human fleet scrambled to retreat, 3 new ships appeared suddenly from what looked like tiers in space itself. Reed recognized the distinctive form of Dominion war vessels, led by the strength of ages that Commander Grech had promised. The Dominion ships immediately opened fire on the harvesters, their weapons different from human technology. These seemed to have some effect, causing the lead harvester to pause its advance. Reed's communications officer called out, "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Dominion flagship." A Dominion commander, not Grech, but one of his subordinates, appeared on screen. "Human fleet, our weapons can damage their outer shells, but cannot penetrate their core defenses. We will distract them while you target these coordinates." The alien sent tactical data showing weak points on the harvester vessels. "Understood," Reed replied, surprised by the immediate cooperation. "All ships recalibrate weapons to target the coordinates provided by the Dominion." The combined human and Dominion forces fought bravely, but they were clearly outmatched. For every minor victory, for every moment they slowed the harvester advance, another ship was lost. Reed watched the casualty reports climb with growing despair. "Where is the retribution?" he muttered, searching the tactical display for any sign of Walker's ship. "We can't hold them much longer." As if in answer to his thoughts, space itself seemed to tear open behind the harvester fleet. The retribution emerged, now glowing with the same purple energy as the harvester ships, but somehow control-focused. "All vessels, this is Captain Walker," came the transmission to both human and Dominion ships. "Fall back to minimum safe distance. The retribution will engage the primary harvester ship." Reed watched in amazement as the retribution charged directly toward the largest harvester vessel. The enemy seemed to recognize the modified human ship, all of its appendages turning to focus on this new threat. "What is he doing?" Reed's executive officer asked. "They'll tear him apart." But the retribution moved with impossible speed and precision, evading the harvester's attacks. As it closed in, the modified warship began to pulse with energy. The hull seemed to shift and change, reconfiguring itself in ways that defied normal engineering. "All ships, prepare to attack on my mark." Walker's voice came through again. "The retribution will create a disruption field that will temporarily disable their defensive systems. You'll have approximately 30 seconds to inflict maximum damage." The retribution was now directly above the lead harvester. Suddenly, it released a massive pulse of energy that washed over the enemy vessels. The harvesters' movements became erratic, their hulls no longer absorbing the energy weapons fired at them. "Now," Reed ordered, "all ships, fire everything you've got." The combined fleet unleashed a devastating barrage. Human and Dominion weapons struck the harvesters simultaneously, tearing into the previously impervious hulls. The lead harvester began to break apart, pieces of its massive body drifting away. "It's working," Reed exclaimed, hardly able to believe what he was seeing. But the victory was short-lived. The disruption field generated by the retribution began to fade, and the remaining harvesters quickly adapted. They pulled back, regrouping for another assault. "Admiral Reed," Walker's voice came through, strained and different somehow. "The disruption field works, but we can only generate it in bursts. The power requirements are extreme." Reed noticed something alarming on his view screen. The retribution itself appeared to be damaged, parts of its structure becoming transparent, as if struggling to maintain its form in normal space. "Jim, what's happening to your ship?" Reed asked. There was a pause before Walker replied. "The dimensional technology requires sacrifice. The refugees warned us. Every time we use it at full power, it consumes part of the ship and part of us." Reed felt cold dread wash over him. "What do you mean, part of us?" "We're linked to the ship now, Tom," Walker explained, his voice becoming more mechanical. "The enhancements the refugees gave us, They made us part of the Retribution's systems. When it uses energy, it draws from us as well. Pull back, Jim, Reed urged. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Walker replied firmly. The harvesters are regrouping. They'll adapt to conventional attacks. Our only advantage is the disruption technology. On the view screen, Reed could see the harvester fleet forming a new attack pattern. Behind them, more dimensional ruptures were appearing as reinforcements arrived. Commander Grek is returning from the Dominion homeworld with their primary fleet, Walker continued. They managed to drive back the initial attack there. If we can hold here until they arrive, we have a chance. Reed made a quick decision. All ships form up around the Retribution, protected at all costs. It's our only effective weapon. The battle resumed with new intensity. The Retribution generated disruption fields whenever possible, creating brief windows when the harvesters were vulnerable. Each time, the combined fleet inflicted damage, but each time, the effort clearly weakened Walker's ship and crew. After the third such cycle, Walker appeared on Reed's screen again. His appearance had changed dramatically. His skin was now translucent in places, with visible energy flowing through his body. His eyes glowed with the same purple light as the ship. Tom, he said, his voice now barely recognizable. One more disruption field should disable enough of them for you to hold until Grek arrives. But the Retribution won't survive it. Reed shook his head. Jim, no. It's already decided. Walker cut him off. The ship, we are too far gone now. The dimensional energy has changed us too much. We can't return to normal space permanently anymore. Reed understood then what had happened to his friend, to the entire crew. Their enhancements, their integration with the ship, it had transformed them into something no longer fully human. It was worth it, Tom, Walker said, seeming to read Reed's thoughts. We saved Earth. And maybe, just maybe, we've given humanity a fighting chance against what's out there. The Retribution moved forward once more, positioning itself at the center of the harvester fleet. It began to glow brighter than ever before, the energy building to impossible levels. Goodbye, old friend, Walker said. Remember us. And remember, the anger that drives us now is born of love for what we're protecting. The Retribution exploded in a controlled burst of dimensional energy, creating the largest disruption field yet. Every harvester ship in the vicinity froze, their systems completely disabled. All ships, attack. Reed ordered, his voice breaking. Don't let their sacrifice be in vain. As the fleet moved to destroy the helpless harvester vessels, Reed watched the space where the Retribution had been. For a moment, he thought he saw something. A shadow of the ship, slipping between dimensions, not quite gone. Then the Dominion reinforcements arrived, led by Commander Grek himself. Together, the combined forces destroyed the remaining harvesters, driving back the first wave of their invasion. Hours later, as the human and Dominion leaders met to discuss their new alliance and future defense plans, Reed stood alone by a viewport, looking out at the stars. We'll find a way to defeat them permanently, Jim, he promised softly. And someday, maybe we'll find a way to bring you home. In the depths of space, between dimensions where human senses could not perceive, the essence of what had once been the Retribution and its crew continued to exist. No longer fully ship, no longer fully human, but watching, waiting, and still burning with righteous anger at the enemies of humanity. The lost warship had returned, sacrificed itself, and in doing so, had given Earth something it desperately needed: hope. The bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-oiled machine. Captain Tom Reed sat in his command chair, blue eyes fixed on the vast starscape that stretched before him. His ship was 3 months into its patrol route through the outer colonies, and so far, it had been uneventful, perhaps too uneventful. Status report, he called out, more from habit than necessity. First Officer Lisa Bell looked up from her console. All systems normal, Captain. We'll reach Colony Outpost 7 in about 48 hours. Tom nodded. Lysa was reliable, steady, and sharp. He'd served with her for 5 years now, and in that time, she'd never once let him down. Unlike some of the newer crew members, she didn't get caught up in wild stories or space myths. "Sir," called Tactical Officer James Wilson from his station, "I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors." James was young but skilled, with a keen eye for details others might miss. "It's gone now, but for a moment, there was something." Engineer Mike Cooper snorted from where he was checking system diagnostics. "Probably just sensor ghosts. This region is known for magnetic disturbances." "It wasn't a disturbance," James insisted. "It had a pattern to it." "Don't tell me you believe in the ghost ship too," Mike said with a laugh. "Next you'll be saying it was the Spectre itself coming to haunt us." Tom raised an eyebrow. "The what?" Lisa sighed. "It's nothing, Captain. Just an old story that's been circulating among the outer colonies. Supposedly, there's a phantom ship that appears and disappears near the Orion Nebula. Some say it's a lost military vessel from the early colony wars." "It's not just a story," communications specialist Anna Ward chimed in, turning in her chair. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "My cousin works on Mining Station Delta, and they saw it last month. A massive ship, old Earth design, that appeared on their sensors for 3 minutes then vanished completely." Tom leaned back in his chair. "I've been patrolling this sector for 15 years. If there was a ghost ship out here, I think I would have seen it by now." "That's what makes it a ghost, Captain," Anna replied with a smile. "It only shows itself when it wants to be seen." Mike laughed again, or when someone's had too much synthetic alcohol. The conversation was interrupted by a beep from Lisa's console. "Captain, incoming transmission from Colony Outpost 7. They're requesting we make a slight detour. There's someone there who wants to meet with us." Tom frowned. "Did they say who or why?" "Just that it's important. Something about unusual activity in the sector." "Plot the course," Tom ordered. "Let's see what's so important." 2 days later, the Horizon docked at Colony Outpost 7, a spinning ring-shaped station that served as a supply hub for the mining operations in the area. Tom and Lisa made their way through the crowded main concourse, past traders and miners and families going about their daily business. The station administrator, a thin woman named Keller, led them to a small meeting room near the outer ring. "He's been waiting for you," she said. "Keeps saying he has information that could save lives." When the door slid open, Tom was surprised to see an old man sitting at the table. He must have been at least 90, with a weathered face and silver hair. His right arm was mechanical, an older model prosthetic that spoke of military service long ago. "Captain Reed," the old man said, his voice surprisingly strong. "I'm John Gray, former lieutenant on the UES Dauntless. I served during the colony wars." Tom sat down across from him. "What can I do for you, Lieutenant Gray?" "It's just Gray now." The old man's eyes were sharp, alert. "I hear your ship has been detecting unusual readings in Sector 12. Tom exchanged a quick glance with Lisa. They hadn't reported any sensor anomalies to the station. "What makes you say that?" "Because that's where it begins. First, the sensor readings that don't make sense. Then sightings at the edge of visual range. Finally, if you're unlucky, a full encounter." Gray leaned forward. "You're on a collision course with the ghost, Captain." Lisa frowned. "You mean the Spectre? That's just a story people tell." "Is it?" Gray's mechanical hand tapped the table rhythmically. 80 years ago, I was on a patrol just like yours when we encountered the UES Spectre, a stealth ship on a classified mission. We exchanged communications, logged their position, and went on our way." His eyes grew distant. 3 days later, they'd vanished from all tracking systems. The official report said they were lost with all hands due to a drive malfunction. "I'm sorry," Tom said. "Losing fellow soldiers is always hard." "You don't understand," Gray said. 6 months after they disappeared, the Spectre appeared again, right in the middle of a skirmish with rebel forces. It fired on the enemy ships, saved our entire squadron, and then vanished again before we could make contact. Tom studied the old man's face for signs of senility or deception, but found only earnest concern. Even if I believed you, what does this have to do with us? Because it's happening again. Over the past month, there have been 7 sightings in your patrol area. The pattern is the same as 80 years ago. Gray slid a data chip across the table. These are all the records I've managed to gather. Sensor readings, visual data, everything. Tom pocketed the chip. I'll look into it, but I can't promise anything. Just be careful, Captain. Gray warned. The Spectre isn't dangerous on its own, but where it goes, trouble follows. And if you do see it, his voice dropped. Remember that not all ghosts know they're dead. Back on the horizon, Tom called his senior officers to the briefing room and played the data from Gray's chip. The sensor readings showed brief energy spikes throughout sector, appearing and disappearing with no discernible pattern. It could be anything, Mike said with a dismissive wave. Solar flares, asteroid impacts, illegal mining operations. James shook his head. Look at the energy signature. It's military grade and old. Really old. So maybe it's debris from the colony wars, Lisa suggested. There were dozens of battles fought in this region. Anna, who had been quiet until now, pointed to a section of data. These communication fragments. They are using encryption protocols that haven't been used in decades. And look at the timestamps. There's a pattern. Tom looked closer at the data. Anna was right. When arranged chronologically, the appearances weren't random at all. They were systematic, like a search pattern. Whatever this is, Tom said slowly, it's moving with purpose, and its next appearance should be. He traced the pattern forward, here, near Mining Outpost 42. That's less than a day's journey at maximum speed. Lisa noted. Tom stood up. Plot a course. If there's something out there, ghost ship or not, I want to know what it is before it reaches any civilian outposts. As the officers filed out, Tom stayed behind, staring at the display. The rational part of his mind told him there had to be a logical explanation for the anomalies. Ships didn't just disappear and reappear across decades. But after 15 years in deep space, he'd learned one important lesson. The universe was stranger than anyone imagined, and some legends had their roots in truth. The question was, what truth lay behind the legend of the ghost ship? And more importantly, what would happen when they found it? The horizon cut through the darkness of space. Engines pushed to maximum as they raced toward Mining Outpost 42. Captain Tom Reed hadn't slept in nearly 20 hours, but adrenaline kept him alert. If the pattern held true, whatever was causing the strange readings would appear within the next 6 hours. Status report, he called, rubbing his tired eyes. All systems running at peak efficiency, Engineer Mike Cooper replied from his station. Though I still think we're chasing shadows. Lisa Bell shot Mike a warning look before turning to Tom. We're 3 hours from the predicted coordinates, Captain. No unusual readings yet. Tom nodded and stood up to stretch his legs. The bridge was tense, each crew member feeling the weight of anticipation. Even Mike, for all his skepticism, checked his readings more carefully than usual. Captain, Anna Ward called suddenly from communications. I'm picking up something strange. Everyone turned toward her station. It's a transmission, but Anna's fingers flew over her console. It's using an old military frequency, and the encryption is like nothing I've seen before. Can you decode it? Tom asked, moving to stand behind her. Anna shook her head. I'm trying, but it's complex. Wait, I'm getting fragments now. She activated the ship's speakers, and a broken voice filled the bridge. Patrol sector, unknown contacts, request immediate, standard protocols. The voice faded in and out, distorted by static and something else, a strange warping effect that made it sound both distant and too close at the same time. That doesn't sound like a recording, James said from Tactical. That sounds live. But who would be using military frequencies that haven't been active for decades? Lisa asked. Tom turned to her. The ghost ship. For once, no one laughed or rolled their eyes. The voice on the transmission sounded real. A person speaking in the present, using protocols from the past. Anna, keep working on that transmission. See if you can clean it up or respond on the same frequency, Tom ordered. James, I want all sensors at maximum sensitivity. If there's anything out there larger than a pebble, I want to know about it. Captain, Mike called, his usual skepticism absent from his voice. I'm detecting an energy signature at the edge of our sensor range. It just appeared. On screen, Tom commanded. The main view screen shifted to show a distant section of space, filled with asteroids and debris. At first, Tom saw nothing unusual. Then, between two large asteroids, something moved. Magnify, he ordered. The image zoomed in, and Tom felt his breath catch. There, partially hidden by the asteroid field, was a ship. But unlike any ship he'd seen before, its design was clearly human but from an era long past. Sleek and predatory, with sharp angles and massive gun emplacements that modern ships had abandoned decades ago. Most striking was its color, or rather, the lack of it. The hull was a deep, light-absorbing black that seemed to bend the starlight around it. In places, the darkness shimmered and shifted, as if the ship wasn't fully solid. That's it, Anna whispered. The Spectre. Tom stared at the image, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Can we get any readings from it? Negative, James replied, his voice tight. Our sensors are having trouble locking on. It's like the ship is flickering in and out of normal space. It matches no known ship design in our database, Lisa reported. But the general configuration is consistent with heavy cruisers from the late Colony War era. The markings, Anna pointed to faded symbols visible on one section of the hull. Those are Earth military insignias from 80 years ago. Mike, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. Captain, that ship is powering up. I'm detecting energy buildup consistent with weapon systems. Shields up, Tom ordered. Battle stations. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, but there was a new tension in their movements. This wasn't a pirate vessel or a known enemy. This was something else entirely. Should we arm weapons? James asked, finger hovering over the tactical controls. Tom hesitated. No, not yet. Let's see what they do first. The minutes ticked by intense silence as the mysterious vessel continued to power up its systems. On the view screen, more details became visible as dormant sections of the ship came to life. It was massive, at least twice the size of the horizon, and despite its age, looked deadly efficient. Captain, Anna called. I've managed to open a channel on their frequency. Put me through, Tom said, straightening his uniform. Anna nodded, and Tom spoke clearly. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Tom Reed of the exploration vessel Horizon. We mean you no harm. Please identify yourself. Silence filled the bridge as they waited for a response. Then, after what felt like an eternity, a voice crackled through the speakers. This is the United Earth Ship Spectre. You are in restricted military space. Identify yourself and your purpose immediately. The voice was firm, commanding, and completely serious about a restricted zone that hadn't existed for decades. Tom exchanged glances with Lisa before responding. UES Spectre, we are on a routine patrol mission. There is no restricted zone in this sector. It's open space near Mining Outpost 42. Another long pause followed. Your information is incorrect. The voice finally replied. This sector is under military quarantine by order of Earth Command. All civilian vessels are to withdraw immediately. Earth Command. Lisa whispered. That command structure was dissolved 60 years ago after the unification. Tom nodded grimly. Anna, are we getting any visual on their bridge? Negative, "Captain, they're only transmitting audio." Tom thought quickly. If this truly was the legendary ghost ship, they were dealing with a crew that might be operating under outdated information, or worse, trapped in some kind of temporal anomaly, where the colony wars were still ongoing. "UES Spectre," Tom said carefully, "what is the current date according to your ship's log?" The question was met with silence. "They're scanning us," James reported suddenly. "Deep scan. They're looking at everything. Our engines, weapons, even our hull composition." "Let them look," Tom said. "They're trying to figure out who we are, just like we're trying to figure out who they are." The voice from the Spectre returned, now with an edge of confusion. "Your ship design is unknown to us. Identify your maker and allegiance." "We are an Earth vessel," Tom replied. "We represent the United Colonies, the government formed after the colony wars ended." After the wars ended. The voice had changed, now filled with disbelief. "What year do you claim it is?" Tom met Lisa's eyes before answering. "By the standard Earth calendar, it's 2472. The silence that followed was heavy. When the voice returned, it was lower, almost a whisper. "That's impossible. Our chronometers read 2392. 80 years difference," Anna said quietly. "Exactly what Gray told us." Before Tom could respond, James called out, "Captain, energy spike. There." His words were cut off by a brilliant flash of light. The horizon rocked violently as alarms blared across the bridge. "Report," Tom shouted, grabbing his chair for support. They fired a warning shot. James called back, fingers flying over his console. "High-energy beam weapon. Nothing like what we have." It passed within 50 meters of our bow. "Damage?" "None, but our shields wouldn't have stopped it if they'd aimed directly at us." Mike reported, face pale. "That technology it's beyond anything I've ever seen." On the view screen, the Spectre was now fully visible, its engines glowing with an eerie blue light. The ship was no longer hiding. "They're hailing us again," Anna reported. Tom straightened himself. "Put them through." The voice that came through was cold and precise. "That was a demonstration. The next will not miss. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." Tom realized that the encounter had just escalated from mysterious to dangerous. Whatever the Spectre was, ghost ship, time anomaly, or something else entirely, it now saw the horizon as a threat. And based on that warning shot, it had the firepower to back up its threats. "Lower shields and prepare to be boarded." "Not a chance," Tom said firmly, gripping the arms of his captain's chair. He turned to Lisa. "Options." Lisa's mind worked quickly. "We can't outgun them. That warning shot proved that. But maybe we can outrun them." "Mike, what's your assessment of their propulsion system?" Tom asked. The engineer studied his readings. "Hard to tell. Their technology is both advanced and outdated at the same time. But if that energy signature is any indication, they might be faster than us too." Anna suddenly straightened in her seat. "Captain, they're gone." "What?" Tom turned to the main screen. Where the massive form of the Spectre had been moments before, there was nothing but empty space and distant asteroids. "Sensors confirm," James reported, bewildered. "No trace of the vessel. It's like it just vanished." Tom stood up, staring at the empty space. "That's impossible. A ship that size can't just disappear." "Unless it's truly a ghost," Anna whispered. "Or has technology we don't understand." Lisa countered. "Some kind of cloaking system, maybe." Mike shook his head. "No cloaking technology I know of can hide a ship that completely. Even the best stealth systems leave some trace. Heat, gravity distortion, something." "Keep scanning," Tom ordered. "They're out there somewhere." The bridge fell silent as each officer focused on their tasks, searching for any sign of the mysterious vessel. Minutes stretched into an hour with no results. Finally, Tom sighed. Set course back to Colony Outpost 7. We need to report this to Command. 3 days later, the Horizon was docked at Colony Outpost 7. Tom sat in a secure communication room, facing the stern image of Admiral Jones on the screen. "Let me get this straight, Captain," the Admiral said, his bushy eyebrows drawn together. "You're claiming to have encountered a ship that's been missing for 80 years, which fired on you with unknown technology, and then vanished without a trace." "Yes, sir," Tom replied. "I know how it sounds, but my entire bridge crew witnessed it. We have sensor logs and recordings of the communications." The Admiral was silent for a moment. "Your logs show some kind of vessel. I'll grant you that. But the Spectre. That ship was lost with all hands in 2392. That's exactly the year they thought it was, sir," Tom pointed out. Admiral Jones sighed heavily. "I sent your data to our analysts. In the meantime, I'm assigning the Horizon to investigate further. If this is the Spectre, we need to know how it's still operational and what happened to its crew." Tom nodded. "What about the mining outposts in the region? If the Spectre is hostile?" "We've already issued warnings to all facilities in the sector," the Admiral assured him. "But your priority is to find that ship again. We need answers, not just ghost stories." "Understood, sir." As the Admiral's image faded from the screen, Tom felt the weight of the mission settle on his shoulders. Finding a ship that could appear and disappear at will wouldn't be easy. Back on the Horizon, Tom called a meeting in the ship's library, a small room filled with data terminals and actual physical books, a rarity on modern vessels. "I've been granted access to classified military archives," he told his senior officers. "If we're going to find the Spectre again, we need to understand what we're dealing with." He activated the main screen, displaying old technical schematics and mission reports. The UES Spectre was part of a classified program called Project Phantom. They were developing stealth technology that would allow ships to operate behind enemy lines during the colony wars. "What kind of stealth technology?" Mike asked, leaning forward with interest. "That's where it gets strange," Tom replied. "Most of the technical details are still classified, but there are references to phase shifting and temporal displacement throughout the reports." "Time travel?" Anna asked, eyes wide. "Not exactly," Lisa said, scrolling through the data. "More like existing slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. Theoretically, it would make a ship nearly impossible to detect." James frowned. "But the reports also mention side effects. Crew experiencing temporal disorientation and reality slippage, which could explain why they think it's still 2392. Tom noted, "What if the ship's technology somehow isolated them from the normal flow of time?" Mike looked skeptical. "That's a big leap, Captain." "Maybe," Tom agreed. "But it would explain how a ship could disappear for decades and then reappear with a crew that hasn't aged." Anna, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I've been analyzing the pattern of Spectre sightings over the past month." She pulled up a star chart on her tablet. "They're not random. Look, each appearance is near a mining facility or automated extraction site. They're gathering resources," Lisa realized. "But for what?" Tom wondered. The answer came 3 days later when an emergency transmission reached the Horizon from Mining Station Delta. "This is Station Chief Williams. We're under attack. An unknown vessel appeared from nowhere, and wait, they're not attacking us. They're taking our processed duranium shipment." Tom immediately ordered full speed to the mining station, but by the time they arrived, the Spectre was long gone, along with 20 tons of refined uranium, a key component in high-performance energy systems. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern repeated. The Spectre would appear, take specific resources from mining operations, always duranium, specialized alloys, or rare elements, and vanish before the Horizon could intercept. "They're gathering materials to repair something," Mike concluded after analyzing the theft reports. "Probably their propulsion system or whatever device allows them to phase in and out of normal space. But why now?" Lisa asked. If they've been stuck in some kind of temporal bubble for 80 years, what changed? Tom had no answer, but he was determined to find out. In his quarters that night, Tom studied the reports of every Spectre sighting, looking for any clue they might have missed. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but he couldn't rest. Not while the ghost ship remained a mystery. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Mike entered, holding a small device in his hands. "Captain, I think I've figured out how to track them." Tom sat up straight. "How?" "Every time they phase in or out, they leave behind a specific energy signature. Very faint, but detectable if you know what to look for." Mike set the device on Tom's desk. "I've modified one of our sensor arrays to detect these energy traces. They last about 6 hours after the ship disappears." Tom picked up the device, hope rising in his chest. "Can you track where they went?" Mike smiled. "Better. I can predict where they'll appear next." The horizon waited in empty space, all non-essential systems powered down to avoid detection. According to Mike's calculations, the Spectre would appear in this exact location within the next hour to collect radiation samples from a nearby pulsar. Tom paced the bridge, checking the time every few minutes. Any sign of them? "Nothing yet, Captain," James replied from Tactical. "But we're ready." The minutes ticked by slowly. Tom was beginning to wonder if Mike's calculations had been wrong when Anna suddenly straightened. "Captain, I'm detecting the energy signature. It's faint, but growing stronger." "All hands, battle stations," Tom ordered. "Shields up, but weapons on standby only. I want to talk to them before things escalate." The space before them seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then, with a flash of blue-white light, the massive form of the Spectre appeared, so close that it filled the entire view screen. "Got you," Tom said quietly. And this time, he wasn't going to let them disappear again. "Hail them," Tom ordered, his eyes fixed on the massive ship that loomed before them. Anna nodded, fingers dancing across her console. "Channel open, Captain." Tom took a deep breath. "UES Spectre, this is Captain Tom Reed of the Horizon. We mean you no harm. We only want to talk." The bridge crew waited in tense silence. The Spectre hung motionless in space, its dark hull absorbing the light of nearby stars. It looked both ancient and timeless, a relic from the past that somehow seemed more advanced than their own modern vessel. Finally, a voice responded. "This is Commander David Miller of the UES Spectre. Why have you been following us, Horizon?" Tom glanced at Lisa before responding. "We've been trying to understand who you are and what you're doing in this sector." The UES Spectre was declared lost 80 years ago. Another long pause followed. When Commander Miller spoke again, his voice had lost some of its hardness. "Captain Reed, I'm willing to meet with you to discuss our situation. You may dock with us. Bring no more than 3 officers, and come unarmed." "Understood," Tom replied. "We'll approach for docking." As the communication ended, Lisa immediately objected. "Captain, you can't seriously be considering this. It could be a trap." "It's our best chance to get answers," Tom said firmly. "Lisa, you and Mike will come with me. James, you have the bridge. If we don't check in every 30 minutes, take the Horizon back to Outpost 7 and report to Admiral Jones." James nodded grimly. "Understood, sir." As they prepared for the docking, Mike approached Tom in the shuttle bay. "I've analyzed more of their energy readings," he said quietly. "Whatever technology they're using, it's unstable. There are radiation patterns I've never seen before." "All the more reason to find out what's happening," Tom replied, checking his communicator. The short journey from the Horizon to the Spectre was tense. Tom watched through the shuttle viewport as they approached the ghost ship's docking bay, a massive dark opening in the hull that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. "Look at the hull," Lisa whispered as they got closer. "Those aren't battle scars." Tom saw what she meant. The ship's exterior was covered in strange patterns, rippling distortions in the metal itself, as if the hull had partially melted and reformed countless times. What could cause that? Mike wondered. "Let's find out," Tom said as their shuttle slid into the docking bay. The interior of the Spectre was unlike any ship Tom had ever seen. The corridors were standard military design from the era, but everything had a strange, fluid quality to it. Walls seemed to shimmer slightly when viewed from the corner of the eye. Light panels flickered with patterns that felt almost alive. They were met by two security officers in old Earth military uniforms. The officers looked young, no more than 30, but their eyes held an unsettling weariness. "Commander Miller is waiting in the briefing room," one said, his voice flat. "Follow us." As they walked through the ship, Tom noticed how quiet it was. A vessel this size should have had a crew of at least 200, but they passed fewer than a dozen people. Everyone they saw had the same tired, distant look in their eyes. The briefing room was large and dominated by a central table. Standing at its head was a tall man with close-cropped gray hair and a trim beard. His uniform bore the insignia of a commander in the old Earth fleet, but it looked worn and had been repaired many times. "Captain Reed," he said, extending his hand. "Commander David Miller. Welcome aboard the Spectre." Tom shook his hand, noting the firm grip. "This is my first officer, Lisa Bell, and Chief Engineer, Mike Cooper." Miller nodded to them, then gestured to chairs. "Please, sit. I imagine you have many questions." "More than I can count," Tom admitted as they sat down. "Starting with how a ship that disappeared 80 years ago is still operational with a crew that should be long dead." Miller's face showed no surprise at the statement. He simply nodded. "From your perspective, the Spectre vanished 80 years ago. From ours, it's been just under 10 years. How is that possible?" Lisa asked. "The phase shift drive," Miller replied, activating a holographic display in the center of the table. An image appeared showing a complex device, unlike any engine Tom had seen before. "The Spectre was developed as the ultimate stealth vessel," Miller explained. "The phase shift drive was designed to move the ship slightly out of phase with normal spacetime, making us essentially invisible to sensors and even the naked eye." Mike leaned forward, fascinated. "You exist in a different dimension." "Not exactly," Miller said. "Think of it more like operating at a different frequency. We're still in the same space, but vibrating at a different rate, so to speak." "What went wrong?" Tom asked. Miller's face grew somber. "Our first test of the phase shift drive at full power. We were supposed to shift just enough to avoid detection, but something malfunctioned. We shifted too far." He looked down at his hands. "When we managed to shift back, our communications were dead. No one responded to our signals. When we finally reached Earth, everything had changed." "You experienced time dilation," Mike said with dawning understanding. "While you were phase shifted, time passed differently for you than for the rest of the universe." Miller nodded. "For us, we were gone for 3 weeks. For everyone else, it had been 79 years. "And your crew?" Lisa asked gently. "We started with a crew of 200, Miller said. "We've lost 74 to various complications of phase shifting. The human body wasn't meant to exist between states of reality." He gestured to a younger officer standing quietly in the corner. "There are only 6 of us left now. The rest of the ship's functions are automated." Tom felt a wave of sympathy for these people, lost in time, isolated from everything they had known. "The materials you've been taking from the mining stations are to repair our phase shift drive," Miller confirmed. "It was damaged during our last shift. We need to fix it before we can attempt a controlled return to our own time." "Your own time," Tom repeated. "You're trying to go back." "It's our only hope," Miller said simply. "We don't belong here. This isn't our world, our time. And the longer we stay partially phase shifted, the more the crew deteriorates. We've calculated that if we can reverse the shift process precisely, we might be able to return to the exact moment we left." Mike looked skeptical. "That's theoretically possible, but the precision required would be astronomical. One tiny miscalculation, and you could end up even further displaced, or worse. "We're aware of the risks," Miller said firmly. "But we have to try. We have families, Captain Reed. Children who grew old and died thinking we abandoned them. Parents who never knew what happened to us." His voice grew quiet. "We've seen our own gravestones." Tom felt the weight of Miller's words. These weren't ghosts or enemies. They were lost soldiers trying to find their way home. "Commander," Tom said carefully, "I want to help you. But I need to ensure the safety of this sector. Your ship has been causing fear among the colonies." Miller smiled sadly. "We never meant to frighten anyone. We've been trying to minimize our interactions. The warning shot was a miscalculation. We thought you might be pirates targeting the mining stations." "We can help explain the situation to command," Lisa offered. "Get you official assistance instead of having to steal materials." Miller shook his head. "We don't have time for bureaucracy. Our chief scientist estimates we have less than a month before the phase shift becomes irreversible. We need to complete repairs and attempt the time jump before then." Tom considered this information. "At least let us provide some of the materials you need. Legitimately. It would be faster and safer than raiding mining stations." Miller seemed about to reply when alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. A voice came over the intercom. "Commander, unknown vessels approaching at high speed. They're charging weapons." Miller was on his feet instantly. "Get to the bridge," he ordered his officers. Then, to Tom, "It seems we have company, Captain Reed, and they don't appear as friendly as you." Tom followed Commander Miller at a run through the shimmering corridors of the Spectre. Lisa and Mike kept pace behind them as alarms continued to blare throughout the ship. "Who would be attacking us?" Tom asked as they hurried toward the bridge. "Pirates, most likely," Miller replied grimly. "The outer colonies have always attracted those who prey on isolated outposts. Some things never change, even after 80 years. The bridge of the Spectre was a stark contrast to the horizons. Where Tom's ship featured modern holographic displays and ergonomic stations, the Spectre's bridge was all metal and hard angles, with physical controls and view screens that seemed ancient yet somehow more solid than their modern counterparts. Only 5 officers manned the bridge, far fewer than would be needed for a ship this size. Each person operated multiple stations, moving between them with practiced efficiency. "Report," Miller ordered as he took the captain's chair. A young woman with short blonde hair looked up from the tactical station. 6 vessels, Commander, matching known pirate configurations. They've surrounded our position and are charging weapons." Miller turned to Tom. "Your ship is in danger too, Captain." Tom immediately activated his communicator. "Read to horizon. James, we have hostiles approaching. 6 pirate vessels. Get the shields up and prepare for evasive action." "Already on it, Captain," James's voice replied. "They came out of nowhere. Shields at maximum, but we're outnumbered." Miller studied the tactical display. "They want the Spectre," he said. "Our technology would make them unstoppable in this region." "We need to coordinate our defense," Tom suggested. "Together, we might stand a chance." Miller nodded. "Agreed." He turned to his tactical officer. "Lieutenant Wright, link our targeting systems with the horizon. Let's show these pirates what 2 Earth vessels can do." The next few minutes were a flurry of activity as the crews of both ships prepared for battle. Tom watched with admiration as the skeleton crew of the Spectre worked their stations with incredible skill and focus. "They're hailing us," reported the Spectre's communications officer. "On screen," Miller ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a harsh-faced man with cybernetic implants covering half his face. "Attention unknown vessels. This is Captain Vex of the Free Raiders. That antique ship of yours is now our property. Surrender and we'll let your crews live as laborers in our mining operations." Miller's face remained impassive. "This antique has more firepower than your entire fleet, Captain Vex. I suggest you withdraw." Vex laughed. the sound metallic and cold. Big words from a crew of ghosts. Yes, we know about the legendary ghost ship. After today, we'll be the ones controlling the legend. The screen went dark, and Miller turned to Tom. Get back to your ship, Captain Reed. This is about to get very dangerous. Tom shook his head. No, my crew can handle the horizon. I'm staying here to help coordinate our defense. A hint of a smile touched Miller's face. Stubborn. I like that. He turned to his weapons officer. Targeting solutions on all pirate vessels. Prioritize their weapon systems. Sir, the young officer replied. Phase cannons are only at 60% capacity. The drive repairs have drained most of our power reserves. Miller's expression darkened. Then we'll have to make every shot count. Tom moved to the communication station. Reed to Horizon. Lisa, Mike and I are staying aboard the Spectre to coordinate. Take positions on the far side of the ghost ship and focus fire on any vessel that attempts to flank us. Understood, Captain, James replied. Be careful over there. Here they come, Miller announced as the pirate ships accelerated toward them, energy weapons charging. The space around the two Earth vessels erupted in blazing light as the pirates opened fire. The Spectre rocked under the impact, but its ancient shields held. Return fire, Miller ordered calmly. The Spectre's weapons were unlike anything Tom had seen before. Beams of shifting blue-white energy lanced out from the ship, striking two pirate vessels with devastating accuracy. One pirate ship immediately lost power, drifting helplessly. The other spun away, its engines damaged. The Horizon added its more conventional weapons to the fight, targeting the smaller raider vessels that tried to circle behind the Spectre. For several minutes, the battle seemed evenly matched. Then 3 more pirate ships appeared on the edge of the sensor range. Reinforcements, Miller said grimly. They must want this ship badly. Tom studied the tactical display. We can't win against those numbers. Miller was silent for a moment, his eyes focused on something distant. Then he seemed to come to a decision. There is another option. He turned to his chief engineer. Status of the phase shift drive. The engineer looked alarmed. Sir, it's only partially repaired. A shift now could be catastrophic. Not a full shift, Miller clarified. Just enough to give us an edge. The engineer hesitated, then nodded. It might work. But it would burn out the drive completely. We'd never be able to attempt our return journey. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Tom realized what Miller was suggesting, sacrificing their only chance to return to their own time to save both ships in the present. Commander, Tom began. You don't have to. Yes, we do, Miller cut him off. Prepare the drive for a partial phase shift. Target the center of the pirate formation. As the engineers worked frantically at their stations, more pirate ships arrived. The Horizon took a direct hit to its port side, and James reported shield failures in that section. Drive ready, sir, the chief engineer finally reported. But I must emphasize, once we do this, there's no going back. Miller looked at his small crew, each face showing the same resolve. These people had already lost everything. Their families, their time, their world. Now they were about to lose their last hope of returning home. For Earth, Miller said quietly. Then and now. His crew nodded in unison. Execute phase shift, Miller ordered. The lights on the Spectre dimmed as power redirected to the experimental drive. Tom felt a strange sensation wash over him, like his body was becoming less solid, vibrating at a frequency just beyond perception. On the view screen, the pirate ships continued their approach, unaware of what was happening. Then the Spectre began to move, accelerating with impossible speed directly toward the center of the pirate formation. What are you doing? Tom asked, gripping a console for support as the ship shuddered around him. When we phase shift, we briefly exist in both states, Miller explained, his voice strangely distant. Half here, half elsewhere, passing through a solid object during that state. Understanding dawned on Tom. It creates a massive energy release. Miller nodded. Enough to disable their entire fleet without destroying them completely. The Spectre shot forward, its hull now shimmering with blue energy. It passed directly through the lead pirate vessel, causing no damage to either ship, but leaving a wake of crackling energy that overwhelmed the pirates' systems. One by one, the Spectre passed through or near each enemy ship, rendering them powerless without destruction. It was an awe-inspiring display of technology and precision. When it was over, the pirate fleet drifted harmlessly, their weapons and engines disabled. The Spectre returned to position beside the horizon, but Tom could see that the ghost ship was now in trouble. Its hull flickered in and out of visibility, energy discharges crawling across its surface. "The drive is overloading," Miller reported calmly. "We need to evacuate." For the next hour, the Horizon worked to rescue the remaining crew of the Spectre. As the last shuttle departed the ghost ship, Tom stood with Miller on the Horizon's observation deck, watching the ancient vessel continue its slow disintegration. "I'm sorry," Tom said quietly, "about your way home." Miller shook his head. "Perhaps this was always our destiny, Captain Reed. To be here, now, when we were needed." He turned away from the viewport. "Besides, we've been ghosts for too long. Maybe it's time to learn how to live again." As they watched, the Spectre gave one final brilliant flash of light and vanished. Whether it had been destroyed or had made one final phase shift to parts unknown, no one could say. 2 weeks later, Tom stood in Admiral Jones' office, finishing his report. "So the legendary ghost ship saved an entire sector from pirates, then disappeared again," the Admiral summarized. "And you're telling me its crew is now integrating into our society?" "Yes, sir," Tom confirmed. "Commander Miller and his remaining crew have been granted full citizenship and veteran status. Their knowledge of phase shift technology, even if we can't replicate it yet, has advanced our research by decades." The Admiral nodded thoughtfully. "And what about the Spectre itself? Do you believe it was truly destroyed?" Tom looked out the window at the stars. "The official record will show that the UES Spectre was lost with honors, saving Earth vessels from enemy attack." He paused. "But between us, sir, I'm not convinced we've seen the last of her." "Why do you say that, Captain?" Tom smiled slightly. "Because some legends never truly die. They just wait until they're needed again." In the years that followed, there would be stories. Unconfirmed reports from ships in danger suddenly finding themselves aided by a vessel that appeared from nowhere, delivered them from harm, and vanished again before proper identification could be made. Just stories, of course, just a legend. But as Commander Miller had taught him, sometimes legends have their roots in truth.